NBC 10 breaking news.
20 minutes of nonstop news begins with this chilling new video showing a gunman ambushing a Philadelphia police officer, opening fire at point-blank range.
Shots fired! Get that scream! I'm shot! I'm bleeding heavily!
That is the voice of Officer Jesse Hartnett calling for help moments after he was shot. Philadelphia police say this was an attempted execution done in the name of Islam and that it is a miracle the officer survived.
The bravery he demonstrated was absolutely remarkable. His will to live undoubtedly saved his life.
Scary, barbaric, and miraculous. That's how Philadelphia's police commissioner describes this attack.
And we learned today the gun the suspect allegedly used was stolen from a police officer. Police say the suspect ambushed Officer Hartnett's patrol car in West Philadelphia around 11:40 at the intersection of 60th and Spruce. Here's what we know right now. Officer Hartnett was shot 3 times. He's in the hospital right now and is expected to survive. The suspect is 30-year-old Edward Archer. He was also shot and is hospitalized. Police say Archer had pledged his support to ISIS.
We have live NBC 10 team coverage on the investigation, the suspect, and the officer who was ambushed today. We begin with NBC 10's George Spencer. And George, you learned some of the suspect's relatives live just steps away from that shooting scene?
That's right, Jim, and he was known to stay in this neighborhood on a regular basis. Just about 2.5 hours ago, we watched as investigators carried bags of evidence out of this home behind me as they try to put the pieces together in this case. This house only about a block and a half from the shooting scene. It was, police say, an attempted assassination in the middle of the street. We found out today it was carried out using a gun stolen from another Philly cop about 2 years ago. High overhead surveillance cameras captured it all. The man wearing that long white robe rushing up with gun pointed. The flashes of gunfire until the suspect actually has his arm in the car window. He then takes off, still firing as he runs away.
That is chilling, absolutely chilling when you watch that.
Police Commissioner Richard Ross, just 4 days on the job, calls it an ambush. NBC 10 cameras captured the bullet-riddled patrol car and the suspect's gun laying on the ground. Police and witnesses say that suspect, Edward Archer, rushed up out of nowhere around 11:40 last night and fired on the passing officer, Jesse Hartnett, who was on patrol.
He didn't say anything, sir. He came straight on down to the cop car and with boom, 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 boom.
That officer, his left arm badly wounded, chased the suspect firing back and radioed for help. Other officers captured the suspect just around the corner here, only steps from a home where he often stayed.
I was just woken up by a bunch of commotion, and what I actually heard was, you know, the cop saying to the guy, get the F down, get the F down.
The 9mm gun Archer reportedly used had been reported stolen from another Philly cop's home 2 years ago. When Archer was questioned today, police tell us he repeatedly stated his allegiance to Islam, an insufficient explanation for city leaders.
Right away, he didn't have anything to say, but then he stated that he pledges his allegiance to Islamic State. He follows Allah, and that is the reason he was called upon to do this.
That is abhorrent. It's terrible, and it does not represent the religion in any way, shape, or form, or any of its teachings.
At this point, Philadelphia police say they do not have any evidence that would either tie Archer to a larger network, nor do they have evidence that would indicate he was strictly working alone. The FBI is working with local police on this. As for that gun, Commissioner Ross tells us the officer who had it stolen from his home back in 2013 did properly report the theft, but there is no way to know how many hands that gun passed through before it was used last night. We're live in West Philadelphia. I'm George Spencer, NBC 10 News.
Members of the Islamic community say they agree with Mayor Kenney that the shooting cannot be justified by any religion. We reached out to the Al-Aqsa Islamic Society, who told us, we are united with our fellow Philadelphians and decry this and all senseless violence and urge that we do more to prevent the proliferation of guns on our streets.
The police commissioner, Ross, says he's amazed that the officer not only survived, but he fought back as well.
He made this call for help moments after the shooting. Listen.
Shots fired! Get that scream! I'm shot! I'm bleeding heavily!
And this afternoon, we're hearing from Officer Hartnett's father on what he calls a nightmare for the family.
NBC 10's Lauren Make live outside Presbyterian Hospital in Powelton Village, where doctors are treating the injured officer right now. Lauren?
Good afternoon. Officer Hartnett was hit 3 times, 3 bullets, all in the left arm. As you just mentioned, his boss, the police commissioner, he is amazed that he is alive, but his family, they are proud. At Bob Hartnett Auto Repair, today it's about Jesse. What has this past 24 hours been like for you?
Like a nightmare. It's tough, but it's family. We're going to take care of each other, and we'll all be back down there in a little bit.
Bob Hartnett is closing up his shop for the weekend, anxious to get back to the hospital to see his son, Officer Jesse Hartnett, shot in his patrol car while doing the job he'd always wanted.
This is a travesty. It's terrible. It's terrible. Somebody just run up and shoot him. I don't understand that.
Surveillance video shows the 33-year-old officer get out of his patrol car after the shooting. Wounded, he was able to return fire.
I'm truly amazed, but I expect it from him.
His uncle tells me about his handgun training.
He's capable of doing what he had to do. Unfortunately, their fire hit first.
But family knows it's dedication, too. Why do you think he wanted to be a police officer?
He always wanted to help people, plain and simple. He always just wanted to do good.
It's why his dad says he joined the Coast Guard. Following that, there was a stint at East Lansdowne Police, joining Philadelphia Police 5 years ago. Now he's in the hospital, where a proud dad got to see him after surgery. What did you say to him?
I love him. I'm proud of you. You're going to be fine. Yes, and he will be.
While personally this is a tough day for the family, professionally this officer is getting a lot of praise. I spoke with the chief of the East Lansdowne Police today. He tells me he was a great officer and that he was well liked in the community. His current boss, the police commissioner here in Philadelphia, calling him a compassionate officer, and as for what he did last night, brave. Live in Powelton Village, I'm Lauren Make, NBC 10 News.
Now, this police shooting comes at the end of a week where the heated debate over gun control was on everyone's minds.
Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney said last night's shooting demonstrates the need to keep guns out of the wrong hands.
It's amazing the number of weapons that are available to people who are criminals, people who are mentally ill.
And just in the past few minutes, we learned the New York Police Department sent out an internal memo to its officers urging them to be extra vigilant because of the shooting here in Philadelphia. President Obama addressed the problem of gun violence earlier this week. He cried, you'll recall, in memory of the children who died during that shooting spree at Sandy Hook Elementary School more than 3 years ago. The president outlined his executive action plan that includes an increase in background checks on gun buyers. The president discussed his action plan during a live town hall meeting last night. So, recapping what we know right now, Philadelphia police say the shooting of Officer Jesse Hartnett was an attempted execution and was carried out in the name of Islam. They also say the suspect, Edward Archer, used a stolen police gun in this crime. Hartnett was shot 3 times in the arm, but is expected to survive. He managed to fire back and wound the suspect as well. And count on NBC 10 for continuing coverage as new details in this story emerge. And coming up at 4:30, we went to a mosque not far from the shooting scene today. What the local Muslim community is saying about this shooting.
Skyforce 10 is over breaking news right now in Delaware County. A car and a tractor trailer have collided at 2nd and Jeffrey Streets in the city of Chester. NBC 10 is working to learn if anyone was hurt. Drivers should avoid that area. We'll continue to monitor this crash and bring you any updates as they happen. And breaking news out of Mexico, fugitive drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman has been caught 6 months after he escaped from a maximum security prison. Mexico's president made the announcement today. Authorities say El Chapo was captured after a shootout with Mexican Marines. 5 people were killed, 1 Mexican Marine wounded. El Chapo was not hurt. Back in July, you remember, he made international headlines when he escaped through a tunnel from Mexico's highest security prison.
Back here at home now to the fierce fire that killed a pregnant woman and her young son in North Philadelphia this morning. Fire officials saying the 2 were just steps away from making it to safety. NBC 10's Sydney Long is live in North Philadelphia this afternoon. Sydney, you've learned space heaters may have sparked this fire?
Well, Jim, fire investigators are definitely leaning in that direction. They tell us as many as 5 space heaters were being used by this family, and some of them improperly. They also say that a blanket, perhaps on the first floor, caught fire by one of those heaters, and then it spread upstairs. And now 2 of 8 people, a mother and her young son who were simply trying to keep warm while asleep, are dead. Damaris Montalvo is in shock.
It's something that hurts, you know what I mean? We're in a shock right now, and it's just something that it's not real for us right now. It's not.
Her cousin, Elizabeth Perez, was just 29. Due to deliver a baby girl next month, she planned to name her Yvette. Perez died after going back inside of her burning home to rescue her 2-year-old son, Nathaniel. Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer describes what he found once the flames were out.
It's not a pretty sight. It really is not a pretty sight. But you can see her holding her child in her arms, trying to get back out. But that's why it's important. Once you get out, you have to stay out.
Just hearing she made it to her son and gave her that hug, gave her child that hug.
Delise Diaz offered blankets and coats to loved ones who were wailing in despair outside the home at 4 this morning.
It's sad, hearing neighbors screaming out desperately.
She realizes the danger, but empathized that any parent would try to save their own child.
I would have done the same thing. I mean, I would have crawled. If I wouldn't make it out, at least I tried. I gave him 100.
Sawyer says the family was improperly using 5 space heaters inside the home. There were no working smoke detectors.
On Monday, I tweeted out, if you're going to use space heaters need space.
Now, the Philadelphia Fire Department did spend the last hour or so canvassing this neighborhood, checking door to door on residents to make sure that they do have working smoke detectors inside. And one woman we spoke to says there is another reason that people in this area could become trapped inside their homes, and it has to do with how they exit out of their back door. We'll show you what we're talking about in that new video and explain when we see you at 5 o'clock. For now, live in North Philadelphia, I'm Sydney Long, NBC 10 News.
Now, your NBC 10 First Alert weather.
Now to our weather, where the week is ending on a cloudy note. Here's a live look over the Center City skyline. We're looking ahead to a weekend warm-up. We'll also see some rain. First Alert radar tracking heavy showers moving in for part of your weekend.
First Alert Chief Meteorologist Glenn Hurricane Schwartz joining us, tracking what's ahead. Glenn, not a total washout for the weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. And the heavier precipitation comes later in the weekend. We've got a little bit of light stuff in central Pennsylvania headed this way. Nothing around here despite all the clouds that we've seen all day. You can see this is the first band of moisture as it moves into the cold air. There's a chance that some of it could be in the form of some very light freezing rain up toward the Pocono Mountains. That's why there's a winter weather advisory there for late tonight. But just a few rain showers during the night tonight. Generally dry during the day tomorrow. It's 45 in Philadelphia now, even above freezing in the Poconos, where it's going to be kind of a marginal case. But in much of the rest of the area, the temperature not really dropping much. Overnight tonight, it just stays cloudy, but we have some heavy rain over the weekend and also some record warmth. The details on all of that coming with the 7-day in a few minutes.
So you thought $700 million was a lot of money.
I did.
You thought 700 was a lot? How about 800?
Yeah, that's the new record Powerball prize that's up for grabs. Lottery officials saying strong ticket sales prompted them to raise the jackpot. And it's possible it could grow even more before tomorrow night's drawing. The Washington Post reporting could even hit $1 billion. That's if there's no winner tomorrow. Coming up at 4:55, Ted Greenberg finds out how many tickets are being printed every minute as we get closer to tomorrow night's drawing. But Tracy, stay where you are. You're not going out to buy anything right now.
Oh, in a minute, yes. Okay. Well, Wall Street just wrapped up its worst week since 2011. The stock market closed just moments ago, and it's another day in the red. Here's a live look at the big board. The Dow Jones lost 150 points just within the last few minutes before closing to end the day down. It closed down 167 points. For the week, the Dow lost more than 1,000 points.
A 13-year-old boy is dead this afternoon, and no one is in custody for that shooting in Camden overnight. Happened just after 11 o'clock last night on Line Street near Beacon Avenue. Officers found Nathaniel Plummer Jr. lying on the sidewalk. He was taken to the hospital, but he died there. Police haven't said what may have led to this shooting, and as we said, so far, no arrests.
The men behind the deadly building collapse in Center City now know how much time they'll spend in prison. NBC 10's Dina Durante was in court for an emotional hearing where the contractor said it was all an accident.
Family members of Griffin Campbell don't say anything as they leave the Criminal Justice Center. Some of them reacted inside the courtroom by shouting profanity after the judge handed down his 15 to 30-year sentence for the 51-year-old contractor. His lawyer says Campbell was not trained to take down the building at 22nd and Market Streets in June of 2013 and that's why it collapsed. But in asking for a larger sentence, prosecutors say Campbell was in it for the money and took risks when he sold the building's supports for parts before taking the building down.
The drum that they were beating, that this was an accident, makes it sound like it was sort of a one-off careless mistake. And that wasn't the evidence in this case.
Campbell sat at most times his head down, hands folded, sometimes appeared to have his eyes closed. He cried when his 15-year-old daughter pleaded for leniency, saying she doesn't have her dad for anything anymore. Defense lawyers say the 51-year-old contractor was the lowest bidder on a project that he hoped would propel him into the demolition field. They say Campbell and his co-defendant, Sean Benshop, are the fall guys for rich and powerful developers in the city.
He asked for their forgiveness. He and family members expressed their condolences. This has been an epic tragedy all along. But in terms of, quote, criminal culpability, it's an outrage that only two players, the bottom of the economic food chain, bottom of the totem pole, the two easy convictions are the only two that the district attorney sought to obtain.
Campbell told a judge he never wanted to hurt anyone and tried to pull people from the wreckage. He says he still cries and prays for the victims. Sean Benshop, who was operating machinery on the site that day when the brick wall collapsed on top of the Salvation Army store, killing 6 and injuring 13, took a plea deal. He was sentenced to 7.5 to 15 years in prison.
Campbell's lawyers are vowing to appeal. He says he wants to use testimony from the civil cases to show that others were at fault. In Center City, Deanna Durante, NBC 10 News.
Bill Cosby is set to be back in a Montgomery County courtroom next month. The comedian's preliminary hearing now scheduled for February 2nd in Norristown. It was originally scheduled for next week in Elkins Park, but Cosby's defense team asked for more time to prepare for the hearing. The 78-year-old's accused of drugging and sexually assaulting a woman inside his Elkins Park home back in 2004. We have new information right now about a deadly hit and run in Delaware. Authorities have identified the woman killed as 21-year-old Michelle Rivera of Bear. And police say Rivera was trying to cross Route 1 in Newark Tuesday when she was hit by more than one vehicle. None of them stayed at the scene.
Turning now to the latest on the budget battle, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association has announced it's suing the governor and the state legislature. The group claims that it is illegal and unconstitutional to withhold state and federal school aid during the budget impasse. It's asking Commonwealth Court to prevent the state from withholding that money and seeks damages. Just last week, Governor Tom Wolf freed up $3.5 billion in emergency funding for state schools and social services.
Here's a change on SEPTA when it comes to security. The movements of every SEPTA police officer now will be recorded while they're on duty. All 270 SEPTA police officers now have body cameras to wear as part of their uniforms. SEPTA's police chief, Tom Nestel, talked about the department's body camera program today and showed how they've been successful in their pilot program. Each officer will get training on how to use the cameras and will also be responsible for activating it to record any incident.
This is going to be very good for the public and for the police. Cameras are going to make good cops great cops and make the rest of them follow the rules.
SEPTA spent nearly $300,000 on the cameras.
An airman from our area killed in a suicide bombing in Afghanistan was laid to rest today. 30-year-old Air Force Staff Sergeant Peter Taub grew up in Wyncote, graduated from Cheltenham High School. He was the father of a 3-year-old girl with another child on the way. He was one of 6 U.S. troops killed in a suicide bombing just before Christmas. And funeral services were also held today for a 5-year-old autistic boy who ran off from a party on New Year's Eve. Jaleel Vega Batista was later found dead in a Lehigh Valley canal. Police believe his death was a tragic accident.
Today marks the 5th anniversary of the shooting of former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords.
Christina Taylor Greene.
Bells rang out across the state in honor of the victims at the moment of the shooting that left 6 people dead, 13 others injured, and the gunman, Jared Loeffner, opened fire during an event in a supermarket parking lot. Giffords was shot in the head. She was left with a severe brain injury, but she has since become a vocal gun control activist. Loeffner is serving life without parole.
Now, your NBC 10 First Alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Glenn Hurricane Schwartz.
Well, it's been a good week for the Poconos, able to make snow, but they're going to be in with the rest of us getting rain this weekend, and some of it on the heavy side. Not exactly great for the skiers, but next week it's going to get great again. Sunday, in the 60s in parts of the area. Record warmth again, but we've got 2 Arctic blasts coming next week. They're going to make up for that. We've got cloudy skies. We've had it all day. We had it yesterday. Temperatures still above average. 45 degrees. The wind's northeast at 7 miles an hour. That northeast wind helps to keep those clouds in. And so we've had 45 degrees today, up to 52 tomorrow, 65 degrees on Sunday, and then it really plunges early next week. Right now it's 34 in Mount Pocono, 41 in Allentown and Lancaster. The temperature's not going to be dropping a whole lot, so there's no real threat of any kind of icing other than up in the higher elevations. So we'll keep an eye on that during the evening. Clouds, lots of clouds around, but it's been dry all day. Despite that, the rain is back to the west and it's coming into Pennsylvania and in some of the higher elevations in the form of some freezing rain, generally on the lighter side, and that whole thing is going to be weakening. We do have winter weather advisory for the Pocono Mountains and Northampton counties. That goes until 7 a.m. tomorrow. It's kind of a marginal situation for Northampton and Carbon. Monroe County has the best chance of getting at least a little bit of icing for a brief period of time. You can see how the temperature is marginal right up in Mount Pocono and well above freezing elsewhere. Plus, there's not a whole lot of precipitation coming in tonight. We do have some showers coming in toward midnight, so a lot of you are going to be sleeping when some of these light showers come in, and by tomorrow morning, we're generally drying out. So most of the day, if not the entire day tomorrow, is likely to be dry and warmer, with temperatures getting into the 50s in the Philadelphia area and points to the south. Still kind of cool up to the north, but the regular rain, the steady rain, the heavier rain doesn't come until later Saturday night. And you can see that coming up from the southwest. Look at this. By Sunday morning, it is all over the place, and some of this is very heavy. Possible thunderstorms here. You can see even the reds. That's as heavy as it gets here, but look how warm. Temperatures in the 50s. It is moving out fast too, limiting any flood threat. And look at that temperature rise in the afternoon to 66 degrees in Philadelphia. It's amazing. Cloudy and mild with a chance of some showers late. 40 for the low in Philadelphia, 34 north and west, and near the freezing mark in the Poconos. Cloudy and milder tomorrow. Just a chance of a shower in the morning, but most of the rain comes well after dinner time tomorrow night, and high temperatures getting above 50 in at least a good bit of the area. There's the record warmth for Sunday. The morning rain. The afternoon looks dry and windy and warm, and then the wind brings in Arctic air. Temperatures 30 degrees colder Monday afternoon, and with the wind, it'll feel 40 degrees colder. How about that? Then we've got a chilly day on Tuesday and another Arctic blast coming in Wednesday with a chance of some snow showers.
So check this out. Come to your screen. Look at that.
Whoa.
Look at it. The bird you see is a snowy owl. It was captured mid-flight by a traffic camera in Montreal.
Wow.
And data from the National Audubon Society suggests that the elusive snowy owl is actually turning up more frequently in the skies of North America than, say, the pages of a Harry Potter book. Because they typically travel only in search of food, they are rarely seen outside the Arctic.
That one wanted some FaceTime.
Crazy,
Clearly.
right?
Beautiful bird. Well, there is some trouble for the maker of one of the holiday season's most popular gifts.
Why some users say their Fitbits aren't living up to the hype.
Plus, take a look at these flames next. The problem inside this mobile coffee shop that made it explode.
And we continue to follow breaking news in West Philadelphia, where a police officer survived an ambush shooting. Police say the suspect did it in the name of Islam. At 4:30, we're live with a local imam's reaction.
So take a look at this video right here. It's of a bikini barista that burst into flames in Washington State. A worker was inside the Sinners and Saints coffee stand yesterday afternoon when this happened. It just exploded. The woman had burns to her body. Investigators say the propane tanks used to heat that stand may have exploded.
Well, first it was the hoverboard. Now another popular holiday gift is coming under fire. Fitbit has been hit with a class action lawsuit over the heart rate tracking on 2 of its wristband models. A group of customers claims the heart monitor on the Fitbit Charge HR and Surge do not and cannot accurately measure heart rate as advertised. Fitbit says it stands by its technology, but it warns that the wristbands are not intended to be medical devices.
Well, you're going to notice some changes to the labels on Campbell Soup's products. The Campbell-based company says the federal government should establish a single mandatory labeling standard for foods delivered or derived from genetically modified organisms or GMOs. But Campbell says even if a federal solution isn't worked out anytime soon, it's going to still put GMO labels on products that contain those ingredients. Today, we are getting a rare look at a police officer's stunning attack in West Philadelphia.
These pictures show the alleged ambush frame by frame. We'll break it down for you next.
I'm Andrea Klein-Thomas, live in the suspect's neighborhood. I'm going to tell you what we found out about him coming up.
NBC 10 breaking news.
Now at 4:30, officer ambushed. A gunman's attempt to kill an officer on a West Philadelphia street is caught on camera. And today, police say the suspected gunman carried out the crime in the name of Islam. The injured officer, Jesse Hartnett, was shot 3 times in the arm, but was able to fire back.
And he's now recovering in the hospital. Today, the police commissioner commending Hartnett's heroic actions. As for that suspect, he's been identified as Edward Archer. Investigators saying he fired more than a dozen shots at the officer at point-blank range. Archer was also wounded in the shooting. We also learned today the gun used in the crime was a police weapon stolen back in October of 2013. NBC 10's Keith Jones is here now to give us a closer look at the terrifying face-to-face encounter for Officer Hartnett and the shooter. Keith?
Jim, as the police commissioner said, it's amazing Officer Jesse Hartnett survived, and here's why when we break down the surveillance video. Here's the suspect right here approaching the police cruiser, pointing that stolen police weapon at Hartnett. I'm going to move this forward a little bit. Then police say Edward Archer pointed his gun right into the window. You could see him reach right in with his right hand, shooting Officer Hartnett at point-blank range and hitting him 3 different times. You can see the suspect then run away in our next shot. He's a bit of a blur here right in the crosswalk. He turns around then one more time. It's tough to see him, so I'm going to circle him right here, even extending that right arm out in the officer's direction. Then Officer Hartnett, with his injured arm, actually gets out of the police cruiser. He's right here right now, favoring that left arm, and this is when he's calling for backup. Now, despite his injuries, he courageously runs after the suspect. If you're looking for him, he's right down here, actually. There he is at the bottom of the screen. Edward Archer soon arrested after this, too, and it's thanks to him running after him, also shooting at the suspect then as he's running, that this man was probably apprehended. Jim, Tracy, back to you.
Thanks for that explanation, Keith. NBC 10 has also been digging into that suspect's past.
That includes his ties to Islam. NBC 10's Andrea Klein-Thomas spent the day in Archer's neighborhood.
Andrea, what have you learned?
Well, since Edward Archer allegedly told police that he acted in the name of Islam, it's raising a number of questions. Mainly, did he act alone, or is he a part of a larger network possibly connected to terrorism? Now, law enforcement today said they could not answer any of those questions. Right now, they're classifying this as a hateful act. Now, I spent some time in his West Philly neighborhood. Earlier this afternoon, the FBI searched 2 of Archer's known addresses. Here they are bringing boxes of evidence out of a home on 61st and Pine Street in West Philadelphia. Another house is being searched in Yeadon. As part of standard procedure, they're looking into Archer's computer activity, telephone, and travel records. Sources tell NBC 10 that the 30-year-old was unknown to the FBI prior to this incident. In a phone conversation, Archer's grandfather told NBC 10 that the suspect traveled to Mecca in Saudi Arabia about a year ago. It's a place Muslims visit as part of a holy pilgrimage. For now, law enforcement is not suggesting anything was suspicious about that trip. Meanwhile, Muslims across the area are condemning the shooting and showing support for the police, including a mosque in Archer's neighborhood that the imam could not confirm whether Archer attended.
And we can't be responsible for anything that anyone else does. Matter of fact, we don't take the blame for anything that anyone else does in the world today.
Now, I've been looking into Archer's prior criminal record. We'll look more into his background. That's coming up at 5:30. But for now, reporting live in West Philly, Andrea Klein-Thomas, NBC 10 News.
The emotion was raw for fellow officers responding to the shooting of one of their own last night. One Philadelphia police officer posted his account of the shooting on Facebook, and his words and show of support for Officer Jesse Hartnett have gone viral. In the post, the officer speaks directly to his injured colleague. He writes, As the light turned green, you proceeded through the intersection. What you didn't see was a man approaching your driver's side window with a fully loaded handgun by his side. Without warning or provocation, he raised his weapon and began firing into your vehicle. The officer goes on to say every cop in the city and surrounding counties responded. I was only 2 minutes away, but it felt like it took me an hour. We almost crashed 3 separate times trying to get to you. The officer's last words, it simply wasn't your time. God was watching over you. You did great last night. You made the 18th District and the entire department proud of you. You are a hero. You can count on NBC 10 and the NBC 10 News app for continuing coverage as new details in this story emerge.
All right, we're going to take a turn here. Here's a question for you. If you're going out to eat tonight, if so, your waiter may impact what you eat.
Not just with recommendations. Next, how your server's size could dictate what you choose to eat. And your glass of wine may not give you the health benefits you may think. Next, the new study that says it's the exact opposite.
I'm Keith Jones for NBC 10 at Issue. This week, you'll meet one of the Democrats running in this spring's primary for Pennsylvania U.S. Senator. John Fetterman doesn't look or act like a candidate, but that's not stopping him or his supporters.
For good or bad, I am who I am. I dress how I dress. I come from a really hard, core blue-collar, working-class town, and that's why I wear work shirts every day.
Join me Sunday morning at 11:30, right after Meet the Press, only on NBC 10.
This is NBC 10 News.
Drinking even relatively moderate amounts of alcohol can lead to cancer. That's according to the government of the UK. The government released some new guidelines which suggest men and women cut their drinking to just 6 pints of beer or 7 glasses of wine per week. These guidelines emphasize weekly rather than daily drinking recommendations. Health officials in the UK are trying to steer the public away from the idea that drinking every day is okay.
The person who serves your food at a restaurant may influence what you order in the first place. Researchers at Cornell University watched hundreds of diners in dozens of restaurants, and they found that diners with heavier waiters were 4 times more likely to order dessert, and they ordered 17% more alcohol. A heavier waiter or waitress seemed to have the biggest impact on the thinnest diners. One good solution: decide ahead of time if you'll order an appetizer or a dessert.
Or both. The Phillies, they're in the offseason, of course, but they're still making some moves.
Surprise moves, that is. Next, how the team gave a local hero a day at the ballpark that he will never forget.
And I'm tracking a lot of rain that's going to be moving our way for at least a part of the weekend. Tell you when all of that's going to hit our door next in my First Alert forecast.
This is NBC 10 News.
A tour of Citizens Bank Park turned into something very different for one local fan today as he got a true hero's welcome.
And the surprise was quite the elaborate scheme. Comcast Sportsnet's Jen Daniels joins us live with the story. Jen, tell us what happened.
Thank you. A lifelong Phillies fan, Sergeant First Class Jamil Ali, thought he was just getting a tour of Citizens Bank Park Friday morning. But his tour of the ballpark ended with a special surprise, as Sergeant Ali, who has proudly served 19 years in the United States Military Guard, also found out that he was receiving an all-expenses-paid trip to Phillies fantasy camp.
Sergeant Ali, everybody. I never knew that this was going to happen. I never knew it was going to happen, so I'm sort of overwhelmed. I haven't came down yet from this high that I'm on.
While on deployment in Iraq, Sergeant Ali said Phillies baseball helped him get through his deployment. He was in Iraq when the Phillies won the 2008 World Series title. That season played such a big role during his deployment that Sergeant Ali left his Phillies jersey behind, hanging it on the wall in the dining hall at Camp Taji, where it still hangs today. Now he looks forward to stepping on the same field as some of his favorite Phillies legends.
I'm still soaking everything in. I just haven't been able to just come to grips that I was chosen, and I'm gonna have this opportunity to go there and just enjoy myself. I'm a little rusty at playing baseball, but again, I'm just gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna take it all in and just have fun.
To me, this is what it's about, to be able to give back the people who take care of us. That's the way I look at it, regard our freedom and fight for us across seas. And there's nothing better to see a look on the face, a smile like that, totally shocked that we get them. That's what it's about.
Sergeant First Class Ali said he will spend the next few weeks on the field practicing before heading down to Clearwater. The Phillies fantasy camp gets underway on January 20th. Jim Tracy, it was a pretty special morning this morning in South Philly.
Really special, and he shouldn't feel any pressure about performing. I mean, maybe he can make the team.
Yeah.
Just some legends down there.
We'll catch up with him there. We thank him for his service.
Yes. Thanks, Jen.
Now your NBC 10 First Alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Glenn Hurricane Schwartz.
And they get some really nice weather down there during the time of year when they have spring training. That's why they go down. We are going to be getting some rain this weekend. It's not a total washout, but some of that rain is going to be heavy for at least a few hours. But Sunday, temperatures are going to get into the 60s, record-breaking temperatures in parts of the area, but we've got 2 different Arctic blasts coming in next week. We continue to see the cloudy skies. We had cloudy skies yesterday, cloudy today, 45 degrees. The wind northeast at 7, so very similar to yesterday. The temperatures are almost identical, too. We're just above the freezing mark of Mount Pocono, and that temperature is, of course, going to be critical tonight as late precipitation moves in. The other areas well above freezing are going to stay well above freezing, and so we're just talking about some light rain or showers later on tonight. Temperatures range up to the mid-40s in parts of the area. The average high, once again, is 40. Okay, it's cloudy everywhere, but we don't have any radar returns until we get a little bit to the west, and some of that now in the form of snow in central Pennsylvania. It's mostly in the higher elevations, and those are the areas that could potentially see just a little bit of snow or some freezing rain as we go through the generally late evening toward midnight. But you can see at 5 o'clock it's still well above freezing. And even at 11 o'clock, Mount Pocono is above freezing. All right, the rest of us are just as warm all night as we are during the day today. Tomorrow is cloudy, milder, generally dry. That's the best day to avoid this stuff. For Sunday morning, you get up early, it's going to be raining hard. And as you can see in a future weather computer, some of the red here could be seeing some thunderstorms at 7 a.m. Some of you might get woken up early with it, but look how warm it gets. And once this moves through, that's the morning rain. So in the afternoon, it's going to be mainly dry, and it's going to be incredibly warm. Maybe a couple of showers, but Sunday afternoon is going to be a little bit different than you would expect in the middle of January. Now, as far as the amount of rain, this is kind of the average of the computer models, a ½ inch to an inch. So yeah, we got heavy rain for a few hours and maybe some local ponding on the roads, but no kind of widespread flooding because everything's moving pretty quickly. Cloudy and mild with a chance of a few showers late tonight, generally toward midnight or later. 40 for low in Philadelphia, 34 north and west. Then tomorrow, another cloudy day. Yeah, we could see a couple of showers in the morning, but most of the day is dry. It's milder than what we've seen the last couple of days, getting above 50 degrees from Philly southward. Then on Sunday, it gets ridiculously warm. Look, Sunday morning, the low is 52, and then we go up to 65. With the morning rain, some of it heavy, then we get into the 60s, maybe a shower in the afternoon. The Arctic blast comes Monday. Temperature drops 30 degrees. With the wind, it's going to feel 40 degrees colder. That's a drop. And then another Arctic blast on Wednesday when we may see some snow showers where it gets even colder.
So do you have your Powerball ticket?
Soon. Tomorrow's drawing is a big topic of conversation today, and for good reason. $800 million is at stake. So what can you do to increase your odds of winning? We'll tell you next. Well, Powerball fever is spreading across the country. A record high jackpot has unleashed a frenzy ahead of tomorrow's $800 million drawing. And there's still plenty of time to get your tickets. The NBC 10 countdown clock shows there's 1 day, 6 hours before those winning numbers are pulled. The jackpot is the largest in U.S. history, and at the rate that it's going, the people are buying tickets, it could get a lot higher.
At NBC 10 Jersey Shore Bureau reporter Ted Greenberg found people aren't just thinking about themselves, Tracy, when it comes to their dreams of hitting it big.
Soon after he climbed up to change those numbers, the Powerball jackpot jumped again.
This is where it's going to be.
And at Shore True Value Hardware in Summers Point, they're convinced the winning ticket will be sold here.
Made me come in. I turned the corner and came right in. I said, they got the winner.
Booming sales nationwide bumped the Powerball jackpot for tomorrow night's drawing up to an all-time U.S. lottery high of $800 million.
Just like they say, it pays to dream. Everybody's dreaming.
I got the winning ticket.
Adrian Mobley is looking beyond the incredibly slim odds of winning, 1 in 292 million, and thinking about being generous.
I'd definitely give it to the needy. $5
The owner of Northfield News and Tobacco says he's selling quadruple his normal amount of Powerball tickets.
Everybody like $10, $20 mostly, and a couple of people are like $100, $200.
But those who help problem gamblers say the sky-high jackpot can be risky for some.
When you're not going to be able to put food on your table the next day because you've spent the food money on lottery tickets, that's where our concern comes in.
Most folks with Powerball fever, though, only give up a few bucks.
I would actually help. It would help everybody out. I mean, it would be a great thing.
I checked with the New Jersey Lottery, and at one point today, nearly 2,000 Powerball tickets were being sold each minute in the Garden State. Look for that number to keep growing as we get closer to tomorrow night's drawing. In Northfield, I'm Ted Greenberg, NBC 10 News.
And I love talking to people about how they pick their numbers, right? There is a strategy. A lot of people have their own way of dealing it when it comes to picking those numbers.
Right, but if you're looking to win the largest jackpot in U.S. history, here's what you can do to increase your odds. A mathematics professor at Southern Methodist University says your odds are slightly better if you let the computer choose the numbers rather than choosing yourself. I know you say, what? How could that be? Well, it's because when people use birth dates or other favorite numbers, they generally choose numbers 31 and under, and that ignores the fact that there are 69 numbered balls.
So how much does buying multiple tickets help? Here's a breakdown of that math. If you have a 1 in 292.2 million chance of winning with one ticket, then you have 10 times the odds if you buy 10 tickets, but the probability is still incredibly small. You could buy all possible number combinations, but at $2 a ticket, that's going to cost you $584 million. So after the taxes, you'd end up losing money there.
So that's not going to work.
Good luck however you do it. NBC 10 News at 5 is next.
Here's Keith Jones.
Next on NBC 10 News at 5, we continue to follow a crime that police call chilling and an outcome they call remarkable. A gunman captured on surveillance video ambushing a Philadelphia police officer. That officer survived being shot at 13 times. Tonight, we've learned the gunman